everybody, my name is CanadianWaffle and today we are going to be showcasing and discussing all of the new whips in Terraria Journey's End. Whips are melee-style weapons that do summoning damage and have some other special effects. One effect is an increased attack speed after hitting an enemy. The other is my personal favorite, which is that your summons will focus on the enemy you hit with the whip. Now we don't have to worry about constantly summoning them over and over again anymore, as long as we can actually hit the enemy within our range. Before we begin, I'd like to quickly cover the YouTube stuff, so if you learned something new in today's video, it would be greatly appreciated if you like the video and subscribe. Now without further ado, let's take a look at an epic new branch of the Summoner class. We head over here. I've got a little bit of a setup going on. Let me just quickly turn off enemy spawns, don't want them interrupting us. There we go. So here we are. Journey's End update introduced 8 brand new summoning class weapons. Whips, of course. That is, of course, the topic of today's video. And there are 8 wonderful things. We've got 2 pre-hard mode whips, the leather whip and the Snapthorn, and 6 hard mode whips, going from the Firecracker, whip, Durendal, Dark Harvest, Kaleidescope, and the Morningstar, I believe. Yeah, Morningstar. There we go. In today's video, we're going to go over each of these whips, where to get them, or how to get / craft them, and test them out on some of these target dummies, so it's going to be lots of fun. I should mention that each of the whips has the proper modifier of legendary, so legendary is indeed the best modifier you can give a whip. Now let's start by taking a look at the leather whip. This is the first whip you can find in the game. Just take him out. It does 14 damage at normal, and 16 damage as a legendary modifier attached to it. It's got a use time of 30, and it does 0.5 knockback. So, let's give it a little test here. You can see it's got a very short range. It only barely covers all 5 dummies when I'm standing right up to the first one. With the legendary, we're getting about 70 damage per second. 79 occasionally seems to be its top legendary, and we're getting a lot less on the normal one. So there you go. The way you find the leather whip is with 15 gold coins, the zoologist's store, after completing, I think, 15% of your bestiary. You can see she sells it right here. Next on our list, we have the final of the 2 pre-hard mode whips, which is the Snapthorn. The Snapthorn is crafted out of 12 stingers, 3 vines, and 3 jungle spores. Pardon me. It's got 18 damage normally, and with legendary it has 21 damage. A use time of 30, which is pretty common across the board for most of the whips, except for one exception. And it has a knockback of 1. So let's give this one a test. Got a little more reach, and we're getting around 80-90 damage per second. Seems to be max. Also, it's worthy to note that it does inflict the poison debuff on your enemies. Let's see, with legendary, we're getting much of the same, actually. Have I? Oh, I have messed this up. I put the legendary one in here. Whoops. Here we go. Yeah, you can see that's going much better. We're getting 135 seems to be the top damage for the legendary Snapthorn. Now going into our hard mode whips, next up is the Firecracker. This is a wall of flesh drop. It's got a 12.5% or 1/8 drop chance from our boy the Wall of Flesh, and it does 41 damage normal, 7 with the legendary modifier. It has a use time of 30 and a knockback of 2, so let's test it out. It does put the on fire debuff around, and apparently your summons get more powerful after hitting one of the enemies that you hit with said fire. Now let's actually bring in our summon. Let's see, I've got a pygmy staff somewhere. Here we go. Now go after one of these, will you? I don't think he's very interested in the dummies. Whoops, oh well. From the legendary Firecracker, we're getting about 320 max damage per second, and from the normal one, we're going down to around 230, so there is a big difference there. Next up, we've got the Cool Whip, and it is obtained from crafting together 8 Souls of Light, 8 Souls of Night, and a Frost Core in, I believe it has to be an Orichalcum or, oh, what's the other one? I'm very bad with my hard mode ores. It has to be one of the hard mode anvils, depending on which you have in the world. Now this one apparently creates a snowflake minion. I have not noticed it, but maybe that's just because we're attacking dummies and not real enemies. But with the normal Cool Whip, you've got 51 damage, legendary has 58, there's a use time of 30 and a knockback of 1.5. You can see we're starting to get into the territory of a pretty long range, and a lot of damage per second. I'm standing all the way over at the end of this platform, and I'm easily hitting all 5 dummies up until the end. We're getting a max damage per second of right around 260-ish, 300, we broke 300, and with the legendary Cool Whip, we are getting all the way up to 380 to 410 damage per second seems to be right about maximum. Next up, we have the Durendal. This is crafted from 12 hollowed bars at a hard mode anvil, and it looks pretty cool. It's like a big old sword, except it's not, it's a whip. This one has a normal damage of 56 and a legendary damage of 64. It has a use time of 30 and a knockback of 4. Nope, sorry, 2. Messed up. It appears that we're getting around 400 damage with the normal Durendal max per second, and with a legendary Durendal, we're getting all the way up to 489, 501, so up there at the 500s. And now we're starting to get into the big guns. Next is the Dark Harvest, and it is gathered from defeating pumpkins in the Pumpkin Moon event. This one has a normal damage of 103 and a legendary damage of 108. It's got a use time of 30 once again, and a knockback of 3. It's got this really cool, dark, shadowy bat effect that I like a lot. And you can see we're going much higher now on the DPS, landing at about 660, 760 max DPS, and the legendary one going even further, probably, yeah, 860 right there. So big difference between the normal and legendary. You definitely want to get the modifier on. Second to last here, we have the Kaleidescope. This is one of my favorite looking ones, in my opinion. It's just so very colorful. It's got a normal damage of 169, and a legendary damage of 195. This is a drop from the Empress of Light with, I believe, once again a 1/4. Not a 1/8, it is a 1/4, 25% drop rate from the boss herself. This one's got a normal damage. Oh, no, I already did that. It's got the use time of 30 and the knockback of 4. Pardon my mistake. Here we go. So let's test out the damage. We're getting all the way up to 1,440 damage, I saw. So pretty big damages at this point. Going straight up there, and the legendary Kaleidescope is easily going up to 2,075 max DPS. Pretty good. Last but certainly not least, we've got the Morning Star. This one is dropped from the hard mode dungeon, so post Plantera. It's got a base damage of 185 and a legendary damage of 213. It's got a use time of 45. This was the exception we were talking about earlier, but it's got a knockback of 11. So if we go up here, you can see it is indeed slower. It has a pretty short range compared to some of the others, like the Kaleidescope and the Durendal. And it's actually not rolling out a very large damage per second on account of its speed. It's down hanging around 1,170s. Legendary Morning Star, not too different. We are getting around 1,379 max DPS with the legendary modifier. So probably, if you're looking for my opinion on best whip, I would have to go with the Kaleidescope. I gotta give it to it. It's doing some incredible DPS, it's got the lovely range, and it just looks positively beautiful. Also, it belongs to one of the new bosses, so that's a plus. Overall, I'm really happy that Relogic decided to add such a cool introduction to the Summoner class and give it a branch of new possibilities in the way that we know how to play Summoner. All of these weapons are super fun to play around with, and maybe you'll do some of that for your own world. But apart from that, it's now the end of the video, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you learned something new, and stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you guys in the next one. Don't forget to check out my Discord. Goodbye!